As you can see from that video, from this tweet, my name is Tom Turcich. I'm the 10th person to walk around the world. Over 7 years, I walked 28,000 miles across 38 countries and 6 continents. I went through roughly 45 pairs of shoes. It's usually the first question I get asked. I wore down 3 of those baby carriages that I pushed around the world, and I took roughly 56 to 60 million steps. In short, I lived a great life. I lived a beautiful life, and I'm excited to be here today to share some stories, to share some lessons, and hopefully help you do the same thing, to live a beautiful life. But before I get into all my philosophizing, there's something critically important that we have to talk about, and that's my dog, Savannah, and how cute she is. This is the first dog to walk around the world, who I adopted in Texas after a few months of walking on my own, camping in strange places, and realizing how nice it would be to have a dog that could listen while I slept. She looks perfectly agreeable here, but she was tough. She was tough to train. She hated the leash, she had a paralyzing fear of cars, and she was not treat motivated at all. It was only my discovery of her love for Slim Jims that allowed me to goad her into walking little by little until we reached the Mexican border and we were walking the full 24 miles a day together. Here we are 2 years and 8,000 miles later in the Chilean Altiplano. This is probably my favorite photo of us. Not because it's particularly scenic, but because it's a reminder of one of the most beautiful moments of my life. We were crossing the Andes. And a few days after this photo was taken, Savannah and I camped in an area of unbroken altiplano, where the wind was strong to the point that I had to cover my tent almost entirely in sand just to get it to stay in place. There was so much sand on my tent that I was squeezed in this little space with the side of the tent slapping my face all night. I slept maybe 2 hours, and when I woke, I crawled out of my tent, I threw everything into my cart, and then I began pushing through the sand to get back to the road that would take us to the Argentinian border. But as I pushed, my legs gave out on me. For the first and only time on my walk, I collapsed from exhaustion. I fell face first into the sand. And my first thought was, how much water do I have? Because I wanted nothing more than to just lay there for the rest of the day. But we only had 1.5 liters of water remaining, not even enough for a full day. And so reluctantly, I turned over to face the sun, gather my strength. And thankfully, at this point, the wind had subsided. It was a perfect day outside, not too hot, not too cold. The hill beside me had these wonderful yellow tufts of grass running up it. And after a minute or so, Savannah came and laid beside me. And when she did, it sort of zoomed out my perspective. Suddenly, I saw myself laid out in the middle of the Altiplano, as far removed from everything as I had ever been. 15,000 feet above sea level, 2 years, over 8,000 miles of walking from home, having pushed my body to the point of collapse, and all with a best friend by my side that I never imagined I'd have. I was living a dream I first had 10 years earlier when my friend Anne-Marie passed and forced me to reckon with really the only question that matters: how to live. How to live on the surface is a very simple question, but obviously it goes much deeper than that. And obviously by how to live, I don't just mean how to stay alive. What I mean by how to live is how to live well, how to live your best life, how to live a life that gives you purpose, direction, and satisfaction every day. Since Anne-Marie's passing, this is a question that I have obsessed over. It led me to read stacks of philosophy books, led me to study psychology and philosophy in college, and my unnatural obsession with this question has given me a great life. I lived my dream. I walked around the world. But for such an important and fundamental question, most people don't have a great answer for it. And often, we can feel our inability to fully answer this question when we're lying in bed at night. I think we all know this feeling when the world is quiet enough to listen to your anxieties and you wonder, am I doing it right? Did I do enough today? Did I spend my time wisely? Those questions, those anxieties, those are entirely justified. And really, they are essential to living your best life. But without a greater framework in which to set them, they become paralyzing. We become so overwhelmed by this immense pressure to do everything, to be everything, that we end up doing nothing. And very gradually, almost without us even noticing, the minutia of the day-to-day swallows us. Responsibilities pile on. And one day flows into the next, until the next thing you know, you're 85. Or you're sick. Or you're looking back and you're realizing you just missed it. Life was there a moment ago, you could see it. Now it's gone. We all know that we have this miraculous opportunity at our fingertips, and I'm certain that each of you desires to make the most of it in whatever form that may take for you. Yet despite our best intentions, that paralysis that we experience, that paralysis is commonplace. That's the norm, because it doesn't stem from anyone's lack of desire or willpower. It's the result of our basic psychology. There's an idea that you might already be familiar with known as the paradox of choice. It says the more choices we have, the less satisfied we are with our eventual decision. It's why people in New York stay single for so long. It's why people in rural parts of the country get married relatively quickly. It's why people love Costco. Good deals, quality products, of course, but there's also less choice. And at a subconscious level, we love this. Too many choices is unsettling. We live in this age of remarkable abundance, right? Yet according to the World Happiness Report, American happiness peaked in 1989. Having infinite possibilities isn't a guarantee of more happiness, more productivity. More often than not, it leads to anxiety, inaction, dissatisfaction, and that subtle paralysis that we all experience. But this quirk, this little quirk in our basic psychology is solvable. Just like how eating off a smaller plate reduces your appetite or exposure to nature improves your mood, there is a systems answer to this. I navigate a life to achieve my dream not because of some remarkable character trait. I am not smarter than most people. I am definitely not more driven than most people. You should see the amount of video games I play. It's egregious. I succeeded because I understood this. This is the circle of possibility. The only thing you need to know about it right now is that within the circle of possibility is everything you could become, and towards the edge are the limits of your potential. The circle of possibility is the system's answer. It's the map that I followed to achieve my dream and is what I believe to be the best representation of the answer to the question, how to live. And I'll get into it. But before I do, I have to go back to my senior year of high school to explain why I walked around the world and why that question of how to live means so much to me. I was 17. I was sitting in the backseat of a friend's car when we got a call, and we're told our friend Emery had died. We drove to her best friend's house, and we all sat in a circle on the lawn, and everyone cried. Everyone cried except me. I remember my friend Kevin and how red his face was, and I remember trying to cry, knowing that I should cry, but being unable to. Emery and I were very close. We grew up a block apart from each other. We walked to elementary school together. In high school, her friends were my friends. And the thing about Emery was that she was the nicest person I knew. I know everyone says this after someone dies, it's a platitude. But with Emery, I really mean that. She was a vegetarian of her own volition since 7 because she didn't want to hurt animals. And when we would spend time together, I would basically just spend it trying to get her to say anything less than immensely generous, and she never would. No matter how I poked and prodded, she would never say anything that wasn't kind and understanding. Emery was better than me. She was a better person. She was a better student. She was kinder. She was more thoughtful. And so when she died, I suddenly realized, so could I. So could my family. So could my other friends. I had thought about death before, of course, we all do, but I'd only really thought of it as a concept. It wasn't until Emery died that I understood it, that I felt its proximity. Once that happened, it demolished everything I knew about life. For months, I lived in this haze with no clarity, no answers, unsure of how to integrate that fact that I was going to die and that it could happen at any moment. It wasn't until a friend played Dead Poets Society that I found a way out of that initial fog. Carpe diem, seize the day, action. Death was inevitable, but with Carpe diem, I suddenly understood how much potential a single life has. And so I signed up for everything. My friend said I should join the swim team, so I joined the swim team. I saw a flyer for a one-act play, and so I joined the one-act play, and I was cast with the remarkable role of a tree. Actually, I was a tree in this play, painted green and brown with no lines. At least until another friend invited me to go skiing the weekend of opening night, and so I skipped opening night, and I went skiing instead. I was taking action indiscriminately, doing anything and everything just for the sake of doing, just for the sake of being more alive. But through this, I realized that indiscriminate action is useful only to a point, and that when it comes to making the most of life, of truly seizing each day, you have to decide on a direction. And in order to decide on a direction, you have to know yourself, and you have to know what you value. I reflected on this for about 6 months, and ultimately I came to the answer that I wanted to travel. I wanted to be forced into adventure, forced because I knew I was timid and introverted, and I wanted to go out of that, and I wanted to understand the world. Those values laid the basis for everything else in my life, and they bring me to the first key in understanding and navigating the circle of possibility. It lies right at the center, and that's you and what you value. Knowing what you value is so critical to living your best life that often we forget just how critical it is. The primary benefit of knowing what you value is that it informs how you choose to spend your limited time and energy. That alone makes it more likely you'll take consistent action in pursuit of your dreams.